Hey, welcome to another album review. Today we have Air or AIR with the EP Première Symptômes. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a French band, right? Now, I have already covered these bands in the channel with Talkie Walkie, I think it was the album. And given that yesterday I reviewed some, I guess, ambient electronic type sound, I was looking around, okay, for other types, and I realized that oh wait, I have never done another air thing or AIR. Again, I don't know if it's supposed to be read as an acronym or as a word. So I decided, hey, okay, let's look into their discography and let's look how things were received and whatnot. And I've realized that this EP is one of the highest rated things that they have put out, alongside Talkie Walkie, actually, ironically. There's another album that they've released that I'll probably cover in the future, Moonlight Safari, I think it was. So I might cover that one as well. But yes, this EP was highly rated, and I was like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? This is their debut EP. Let's see actually how it sounds like, and let's see what they were actually trying to do. And honestly, this EP has 5 songs, and I gotta say, it's essentially divided in 2 parts, right? You have the first 3 songs, which I can only describe as, imagine like an 80s detective noir movie. You know the soundtrack that usually you hear in those movies? That's what those 3 soundtracks sounded like, honest, or that's what those 3 tracks sounded like. I just kept imagining like a fucking detective, because you have sort of these bass, you have, I don't know if it's like a synth or whatever, but you sort of have sort of this dreamy electronic sound going on, but it's all about occasional beats and bass. It's almost only about the bass. It feels kind of funky, kind of jazzy in a way, right? But it just feels very noir detective movie soundtrack. I don't know, I like how to explain it. It's a lot in that vibe, but it's way more laid back. It's not super aggressive or energetic or anything. It's very again, it's supposed to sort of be in the background type thing. It's again that's why I kept equating it with a soundtrack, because it's sort of on the background. It's not fully there, I guess, right? I do find it funny that the first song sort of just changes vibes midway through. Not even midway, it's 4 minutes of the same vibe, and then it just changes vibes all of a sudden, which I found was very interesting. It's still the same genre, but it sort of goes from a more laid back, relaxed to perhaps a little bit more anxiety-inducing track, a little bit more negative, I guess, right? It goes into the more worrying side of things. At least that's how it sounds like. Which in the same track would be weird, but still, that's sort of the first track, and then the other 2 tracks are pretty much kind of in the same vein, which I enjoyed a lot. I didn't realize how much I actually enjoyed it, because I think they have very prominent bass, right? That's the main thing that drives the songs, right? Again, you have sometimes some snare hi-hat or whatever, very occasionally sometimes that they go in, and some parts of the songs have it more displayed than other parts, but mostly they also have sort of these, again, I don't know if it's synth or whatever, but it's sort of electronic sounds that sort of sound kind of dreamy and whatnot. They sound very I mean, the other album that I've listened to was sort of this ambient sort of album, so I guess this is sort of ambient electronic sounds, not necessarily dreamy, but more ambient. But the thing that is the most the thing that is the most constant, rather, is the bass. The bass is just prominently displayed. It's the main thing of the songs, and it hard carries the vibe. It's such a strong vibe for the first 3 songs. Now the last 2 songs are a little bit different than that. They're still very electronic, and they still have a lot of the ambient elements and everything, but first of all, they actually feature the it's not singing. Have you heard the, I don't know what's called, what the effect is called, but you sort of have this electronic thing, voice thing, Like, is it auto-tune? It might be auto-tune. Just makes sort of your voice sound very robotic type thing. Sort of like how Daft Punk does, like if you've heard the Daft Punk song, you know what I'm talking about. It's sort of the last two songs here. Honestly, they did remind me a lot of Daft Punk, especially the last one. Okay, this is in French. The Le Soleil est près de moi, something along those lines. I don't know French. But especially that song reminded me a lot of like Daft Punk. Like, weirdly, it reminded me a lot of the 2013 Daft Punk album, more so like than their original works. It was very on the vibe of, if you heard them like Doing It Right, for example, right? Or even, perhaps not Motherboard, but it sort of gave you that vibe of sort of being like somewhat isolated, somewhat like lonely, that album is like a huge space vibe for me, and it's sort of like a lot of the sounds there give you that vibe. These two songs here, especially the last one, kind of like remind me of that, but with the sounds from like Homework, right? With the sounds from like these 90s electronic music, so it was very like interesting, because it's kind of weird, because like it does remind me of Daft Punk a lot, but I know Daft Punk did not make like, because I already heard Homework, and I know that Homework did not have that type of sound registry, so I was actually like really impressed to see this band pull out that the type of song and the type of registry in these two songs, and they were like really great. I think if you like Daft Punk, these last two songs, especially this last song, you have the J'ai dormi sous l'eau, l'eau, I don't know how to pronounce that, but especially the last one. These two songs, if you like Daft Punk, I think you'll like these two songs, because they're very strong in that sort of vibe. Again, like it's like imagine the 2013 album that Daft Punk put out, but just like with sounds from like the 90s, with sounds from like Homework, for example. It's like really, really like good. It's very solid. It sounds obviously a little bit mix-wise, it sounds a bit older, because this EP came out in 97, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that. I'm usually wrong about years, but yeah, honestly, it's very good. It's a very like strong vibe as far as electronic goes, or as electronic music goes. Like, I understand why this band is very well known for being like it's sort of this ambient like synth pop, I guess, or like electronic sort of pop-ish type band. I don't know. I was actually researching this, and some people have essentially called this space pop. And I think that's actually a very like accurate description of what I mean. I was actually just talking about the 2013 album, sort of, giving that isolated space vibes, or like isolated vibes, lonely vibes, sort of like from a space perspective. So I think that like, yes, space pop is like a very accurate description of what the songs are, especially these last two. Like, the first three songs are not. The first three songs are like more, funky, jazzy type thing, very laid back, much more from an ambient perspective, for sure, but still, with that sort of like, vibe mostly on bass, and, sort of, again, like this noir type aesthetic to it. The last two, though, very much, I think like calling them space pop would probably actually be very, very accurate. And yeah, I mean, throughout all of it, like the last two songs, I was like, this is like Daft Punk pretty much. Like, it's just Daft Punk, So I was actually just very impressed with the entire thing. The thing that I also find interesting is, as much as I say that it's like a divide, the fourth song isn't so much on that registry. As in, like, the third and fourth song sort of, like, it slowly warms up, and there's a sort of transition between the first part of the album that has a much stronger identity on that sort of, I guess, funkiness, right, jazziness to it, where then it slowly eases off the pedal on that and slowly starts introducing more elements of especially electronic, and of like, like the bass, for example, starts being a little bit less, right, and you have sort of this transition, especially in the fourth song. It feels like the vibe is sort of in the middle of the two in the album, of the two parts in the album. So there is this transition. It's not like it just cuts off and now the EP just has two different vibes completely. Not at all. Like, I think that you can all enjoy it in an entire vibe, or like you can enjoy the same vibe basically in one go. It's just that because there's a transition in the middle, right? So in a way you don't even like realize the vibe has changed until you actually like make that connection of, oh wait, the last song kind of sounded differently than the first one, like very different, right? So I like, in terms of actually transitioning vibes, I would say that this is probably the strongest EP I've ever seen do that, or I've ever heard do that, because I obviously didn't see anything. And yeah, honestly, this might be one of my favorite EPs ever. Honestly, like, it's actually very strong. The last time that I heard this band and I heard Talkie Walkie, I was very impressed with like the type of sounds and how interesting the sounds were and everything. And I mean, I can understand why. Like, this band had a very strong start, and for a band that I had no fucking idea existed, very fucking strong, honestly, at least as far as I've heard stuff, and obviously I've heard an album and this EP, so it's not like I've heard everything, but as far as I've heard, honestly, incredibly strong. I actually do enjoy what they've put out, or at least what I've heard from them, and I gotta say that it's just a joy sometimes, because again, like, it's such strong vibes, like, to Daft Punk. I don't know, like, I just keep thinking about it, and it's so strong vibes to Daft Punk. Like, it's like I'm hearing a 2013. I forget the name of the 2013 album, but it's like I'm hearing the 2013 album rendition in the sound of Homework, right? It's like it's the 2013 album, but it sounds like Homework. It's so like bizarre in a way, but it's really. I mean, actually, this band is also a French band, like Daft Punk. So I guess that and Daft Punk also released Homework in '97, I think. So it's not hard to understand like where, I guess, the inspiration came from, and especially both being French and everything, I guess the electronic French scene at that time, especially in the 90s towards the late 90s, was definitely more sounding like this, and definitely more sounding like, I guess, the space pop sounds. So I guess it's understandable as to why it is, but yeah, I was very impressed, honestly. And in terms of vibe, I don't even like. You know what? I think I'm gonna give this album a 10 out of 10. I think, or I mean, it's an EP, whatever. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. Like, I'm just, in terms of vibe, it's incredibly strong. I don't know, like, it's actually like really, I don't know, like, I'm just very fucking impressed. I'm kind of like at a loss for words, because it's that strong. It's like, the only thing I would complain about is the first song sort of changing vibes midway through for no reason. Like, I wouldn't have mind that song being 4 minutes, and then an extra song later that was like 2 minutes, and then the rest of the songs being normal. But yeah, I mean, that's a minor complaint. Outside of that, really good. And even then, the transition was somewhat smooth still, right? I'm complaining about it, but the transition was not very abrupt. It's just very kind of smoothie, what the hell, smoothish, I guess. But yeah, I think, you know what, 10 out of 10. I haven't given a 10 out of 10 in a while. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. I'm vibing with it. I'm impressed, so it's a 10 out of 10. But yeah, that's it for today's album/EP, and I'll see you tomorrow with another one.